Hi, everybody. Welcome to Sama, Sales Circuit Music and Art. My name is Darek Mazzone. Thanks for being here. I have a special Sama session tonight. We're going to be doing our first interview with an artist in the beautiful and vibrant city of Tehran. His name is Saba Alizadeh, and he's an Iranian composer, musician, and a virtuoso of the Kamancheh. Did I spell that right? Did I pronounce that right? Kamancheh?
Perfectly,
Kamaneh.
but yeah.
Kamaneh. Kamaneh?
Kamancheh.
Kamancheh.
Yeah.
Farsi.
Not the virtuoso part was not correct, but the rest is correct.
Okay. We'll get there. And I'm also interviewing Matthias. Matthias, is it Koch or Koch?
It's Koch, actually.
Koch. Matthias Koch.
Yeah.
He started his career in music and the music business in '97. My friend, you're a veteran. Wow, and you're still in it. I want to know more about that story. You probably left and came back and left and came back a few times. You were in Epitaph? Holy, okay.
That's a while ago,
interesting.
yeah.
That's interesting. And you spent 10 years in, is it Naive?
It was Naive, the French Maison
French label.
French record
Maison
company.
Disc. I love that. I love the way they break that down.
Yeah.
And since 2016, Matthias has been responsible for the concept and execution of the B2B area of modern classical music and showcase section at Europe's biggest newcomer festival and music biz conference. This is going to be a tough one. Reeperbahn Festival in Hamburg.
That's quite close, but with all these points, obviously, we're getting quite formal already.
We're getting in there, but I'm impressed. Because you've got an interesting history. You were in Tehran and for a 3-month stay in 2016, and countless subsequent trips to the Islamic Republic of Iran. You got to know the culture, language of the country, and as an expert on the scene, has been initiating concerts in Tehran and Shiraz for artists such as Olafur Arnolds, Martin Kolstad, and Federico Albanese. And with 30M Records, Matthias continues his journey to bring together different worlds. And this is in many ways why he's here. So Saba is, let's see, you're 38 right now, Saba?
I'm going to turn 38 on July 8th, yeah.
So you're still 37. And
Don't remind me, please.
Oh, please. You look at me like you're right. You're a baby. Baby, I could pinch your cheeks right now if you were here. Like my grandma, like my babcha would all the time.
Yeah.
You were born in Tehran in 1983 to composer and performer Hossein Alizadeh, and you studied with Saeed Farjapuri and Kahan Kalhor, as well as you studied photography and later experimental sound art, and at the California Institute of Art in LA. And most importantly, you're combining these ancient traditions into something that is incredibly moving. And this is one of the main reasons why I have you on here right now. It's like I've been listening to This Is Tehran and been listening to it on repeat, which says a lot because, you know, in this industry, especially, you get a crap load of music sent to you all the time. And so I'm like, now I'm going to go back to that. And Matthias and I chatted for a while, and we're like, we're both huge fans of Iranian music, Iranian history. I had a few experiences in the States here when the last administration was doing all that saber rattling, and you know, it looked pretty bad. I decided to play on my show on KXP. I decided to focus my whole show on Iranian music. Matthias knows the story, but it bears repeating. I got on Fox News because it was so like, what are you doing?
How was that experience for you?
Well, it wasn't. It was Fox News here. It wasn't like, you know, they didn't fly me to New York and like, what are you doing? Because I'm an immigrant also, so it's always kind of like a freaky little thing. There's a part of me that's just like, how much attention do I really want?
Well, most of the population in the States are immigrants. That's as far as I
Yeah,
know.
yeah, but there was a disconnect. You know,
Mhm.
the immigrants forgot they were immigrants and started looking at
Exactly.
the other immigrants, and it's like, what? They're not real Americans. So that
Mhm.
kind of drove me crazy. That stuff became personal to me because I'm literally an immigrant. I moved here from Poland when I was 9
Mhm.
with my mother, and my mother kind of was looking at that, was like, "What are these people doing here?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, what are you saying? You're a freaking immigrant." And there's just like there's an ability to hold two opposing concepts in your head, and we saw this. And um, as I was, the reason why I did this particular show was that um, Iranian music is beautiful. You're talking about, the Persian Empire, one of the most ancient empires on in the history of the world. But the only thing that we were getting here about Iran was terrorist, Islamic Republic, terrorist, terrorist, terrorist. There was no nuance, no complexity about this ancient culture. It was just one thing that these pipelines just kept feeding us. And I could tell people what you're listening to is wrong. There's a vibrant, amazing culture there that's constantly evolving. They wouldn't listen to me. But if I play music, then suddenly their hearts open up a little bit. There's something that happens with music that changes their perspectives. That really kind of makes you go like, "Whoa!" I. It's hard for people to listen to that propaganda when
Yeah.
they're feeling love and
Well,
they're
well, it's basically a universal language. That's why once you start listening to music, you just put down your weapons and you prefer to talk with frequencies instead of thoughts, instead of stereotypes, instead of, as
Oh,
you were saying, Iran has been bombarded with all the bad news. Not that all of it is false, but at the same time, we get the same stuff about Israel and Israeli people and even the states. I mean, I have been to the States, I've studied in the States, but once I was there, my whole idea about the States and about the people living in the States was different all of a sudden. I mean, I had one of the best human beings, I met one of the best human beings and one of the most influential human beings in my life, in my career, which was my mentor, Mark Trail, whom
hmm
passed away a few years ago.
I'm sorry.
And he just opened my eyes and ears and brain to music, to humanity, and I wouldn't even guess that. I mean, regarding him being an American, if I wanted to listen to the brainwash that I was getting from the government and the journalism, the global journalism, let's say,
Yeah,
because that tells. I mean, whatever the States is talking about Iran, Iran talking about Israel, Israel talking about Iran. This whole triangle is selling so much weapons in the region, and
oh yeah, yeah,
that's not
yeah,
going to stop. That's not going
yeah.
to stop. So, but people are different than whatever arms are being sold.
That's exactly
Anyways,
true. And
yeah.
that becomes the. I'm glad you brought that up because the conversations that I'm having a lot right now here are with people who are just reacting to the latest news, whether
Hmm.
it's what's going on in Palestine. Before that, it was Yemen, Saudi Arabia, and it's just like I don't want to turn this into a whole like conspiracy perspective, but it is like you're right. It's selling arms. This is about money. It's just like causing the next flashpoint because it's part of the system. This is the
It has
way it
always been,
works.
yeah.
And
I
it's
have
like,
to hate you because somebody else is gonna get profited from that hate.
yeah, exactly,
It's
exactly. So it's
so
like,
absurd.
and it's exhausting because
Mm,
because you see it. I have two children, teenagers, and they're woke, they're getting ready, and I'm
mm,
like, they have to go through that, and I appreciate that, and I love that. But it's just like it's going to be so like when they see the system and how it really works, it's going to be hard because it's easy to get mad. It's
yeah.
easy to stay mad. It's easy to listen and go down a wormhole, but and you can't change people's minds by talking to them, but you
Mm-mm.
can do it with music. We're going to play that first piece of music that you sent us right now, not the electronic piece, but we will never meet again. Well, I'm sorry, I'm having a mental fart.
I may
Uh,
never see you again.
I may never see you again. Which I listened to it last night in my sauna, and I played it for a few friends. It's really beautiful. You really with this song, I may never see you again. There's this emotive quality to it, and I love the title. and it's also there's a lot of music and poetry like that I find in especially in Persian Iranian poetry, where it's just like automatically just gets into your heart. With a title like that, it's just like,
Well,
oh man,
thank you.
why do you got to do that? Why you got to just go like so
I mean, that's
Saba?
also the quality of Kamancheh, I guess, because it has the register of the instrument is close to the human voice. So whatever you play with it somehow sounds like a human voice.
Saba, I want to ask you a quick question about how you did you have a choice? Was it going to be music because of your parents and everything, or is this something that you just glommed onto and like, hey, I want to listen to this.
Well, I
I
mean,
want to play like this.
I wanted to become a director, first of all, a movie director. But we have this national test which I took, and the university that I applied for becoming director actually didn't accept students for the director program. So I changed my studies to photography for bachelor. and I started making staged photography, that is directed photographs. So you direct a picture and you take a picture of it. But after a while, and I was playing music since I was 10 because I was, born in a musical family. Not that my father was teaching me, no, never, but I mean, I was in his presence and listening and, absorbing, but I had other teachers. And after some point, I started messing with sound, and sound as a conceptual uh, matter actually became interesting. As a conceptual subject became interesting to me, and I started working and messing and reading about sound more often. And then I ended up at CalArts studying experimental sound practices, which was also uh, a very broad, which gave you a very broad definition of composing. Um, and that's why I started somehow combining, the Kamancha, the traditional Kamancha, and the nowadays technology, or even tape machines. That's how it became into existence, basically.
Okay, so that's interesting because is this, and this might be a question for Matthias, is like there are two types of music that are coming out of Iran that we're hearing right now. There's the stuff that's coming out of the pre-revolutionary, well, three types. Pre-revolutionary Iran, disco, funk, soul, rock. There's still that stuff that's coming out. You're seeing it. A lot of these Partey records and others are putting stuff out. There's hip hop. We had Salome MC on for a while. There's stuff that's coming out that still is like, expats um, and people that are still living there putting stuff out. And then there's new interesting electronic music, which is coming out, which is and it's traditional pieces, Khan Kahor and others. But Matthias, I mean, if you look at your history, it kind of makes sense how you're combining these things together. But how is this manifested? How is this coming up? How is this work coming up? How is it? How did it bubble up? How did you find it? Because it's really evocative. It's really interesting, and it's not something which is emulating. The early stuff was emulating stuff that was coming from the West.
Yeah.
It was like that's it. And hip hop, is voice and it's derived and it's beats, and then people find their own particular structure and they're able to tell their stories. But with your label, it feels like there's a interesting melding of the ancient traditions and yet new concepts and ideas using the tools that are available, but it's not. Um, it's not. I'm going to piss people off saying this. It's not like GarageBand. It's not like chunk, chunk, chunk. Put it together. There's the song. It feels like there's each part is being composed and performed like it has its own essence and self. It's not just collaged, which is beautiful and wonderful. I mean, it's not a value judgment, but it feels like there's the virtuosity of being able to play is expanding into the way the music is being presented and composed electronically. Now, Saba, this is a question for both of you. Is this part of a thing that's happening right now? Is it that the classical musicians are getting hip to electronics, or is this something which is very regional and small?
You go ahead, Matthias.
I mean, I can only tell from the outside. Even Saba would be able to explain much better from the inside. So, but during my numerous travels to Iran, I was looking for more original music than just the pre-revolutionary disco, pop, funk reissues which were coming out regularly on vinyl. I was interested in kind of classical music, but Iranian classical music, not the Western type of classical music. And I had an assumption that there must be some more because of the long and wide and rich culture, that there must be more, how to say, local influences or influences from the own heritage to current music, from experimental music to pop music. And I was actually looking for that because I had an idea in my mind that I thought that would be cool if there would be such thing. But as you know, I was like you, watching or hearing Iranian music from the outside through a small tunnel, which with the 70 re-releases and a bit of modern, yeah, hip hop, maybe some electronical stuff, expat stuff, like you said. But I thought there must be something more original. And when traveling there and talking to people and attending concerts with my friends, actually was just there. So.
Okay. So
From still an outsider, so it's something actually happening, which I wanted to present.
is it evolving, Saba? Are you a lone wolf, Saba? Are you the only one
No,
playing this,
never,
or
never. I mean, it's. I think it's more about this generation universally. Let's first. I'm going to talk about my experience first of all. My
okay?
generation's experience. I mean, we grew up listening to uh, Tool, listening to Nirvana, listening to Radiohead. At the same time, listening to I don't know Miles Davis, John Coltrane, also traditional Iranian music, also folk music from Iran, and also music from other cultures. So we had a lot more input than the generation before us. Internet became into existence in our generation, so we had so much access to a lot of different music, and therefore I think we have this tendency to have more voices in our music rather than just be unison, not in weaving the music, not in structure forms, but in general in the material I'm talking.
Hmm.
And electronics is also part of it. I mean, technology is also part of it. Also, outside of Iran, you see that every, let's say, pianist or every instrumentalist also has a tiny, mini, modular synthesizer by their hand, and they're messing with it, and at the same time playing an acoustic instrument. So I would say it's a universal fever, let's
Okay.
call it. Yeah, but it's growing in Iran, as you said, and electronic music is growing fast in Iran. And I would have to say, for the past decade, you see a lot of people getting into it, and that's really interesting, and really a lot of exciting stuff is coming out of it, actually.
Are you seeing the beginning? I mean, I'm stoked that Matthias was able to put this out and continue to put this out, which is great because I would not have heard it. And so thank you, Matthias.
Mhm.
Kudos to you. But is there an ecosystem locally that is there able to support this? Are there venues? Are there little baby labels opening up, or are people able to put up videos? You know, the music industry's changed so freaking dramatically right now. But I'm wondering, like, is there a way for artists to support themselves and support others so that the scene can grow? You
Yeah,
were
so
brought up. Go
mhm.
ahead.
Well, not necessarily. And most of the electronic musicians that have a name for themselves right now in Iran actually make their living by performing and publishing outside of Iran mostly. And I would have to say that most of their public or fan base is actually based outside of Iran,
Okay.
due to many reasons. One is that they cannot easily put concerts together because of financial issues, because of noise issues, loudness issues, or I don't know if it's EDM music. It's pretty hard to get permission, because you have to get a permission for every concert.
Hmm.
Hopefully not for every breath that you take in this country, but for every concert you still have to get a permission. So they don't necessarily give you permission if you're doing noise music, let's say, because they don't understand it
Yeah.
basically. So not being able to perform it and putting it out there, the reason comes that you don't necessarily have your fan base based in your hometown. Long story short, yeah.
Okay. Okay. But there is a so that leads me to my next question is that there's a pretty significant Iranian expat population worldwide. Like in the States, you were in LA,
Yeah.
there's a lot of Persians and they have their own culture. They have the,
Hmm.
I've had Liraz on recently. She's Israeli Iranian. Um, there's a own vibe. There's a whole scene there. It's different. Like, it's because it's, and here too in Seattle, it's different. There's a little bit of like nostalgia. There's a tiny bit of like interest in hip hop stuff that's coming out, and there's also this sense that Masalame, I was talking about this. You're either still living there, like you are, doing stuff
Mm.
there, or you're out,
Yeah.
and it's a different kind of way. You're like import export. It's like they'll pay attention to you, but it's a different way to look at it, to look at the way artists are looking at you. And I am intrigued because I've been doing this for so long, what the next 10 years could be like, because you don't have this, it's not a tiny thing. It's a quite a large thing with these large populations at different places. And I'm super curious to see where things could go. And you as a label head and you, Saba, as an artist,
Mm.
what do you think the next 10 years will be like with this? Because this potential is crazy.
I mean, it also depends on the genre of music that you're doing, especially, let's say, if
This particular combination of classical and
yeah.
electronic.
I mean, I would say this is not candy to all ears, let's say. Some
What?
people like it, some people don't like it, some people get it, some people don't. And to be honest with you, most of the Persian audience actually is used to having a singer on top of every instrumental track. That,
Hmm.
it's just their thing. It's inevitable. So if you want to produce more sophisticated music, I'm not saying that you cannot count on the Persian audience, but we are actually building that audience year by year. It's growing. We're somehow breaking the tradition of only having singers, only have concerts that is singer based,
Okay.
So I would say it would be growing, and as it is, actually, it's getting out there. Not to the states that much because of Trump. Of how many years? 4 years Trump. No musician could travel to the states. But actually, right before Trump was elected, I was in the states performing. So hopefully, with Biden, maybe some stuff is going to be different for more independent artists.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's the whole intention of this program.
Mm.
Was it's a concert series. We're doing this because there was nothing else we could do because everything was
Hmm.
shut down. But I would love that because this is a vibrant, and I'm not promising anything because we've had the same situation with the Desi population, the South Asian
Mm.
um, immigrants that moved here, especially working in the tech sector. Um, we would be like, okay, we're going to bring in some beautiful classical musicians. Hardly anybody showed up. You bring in somebody from Bollywood, and it's like boom, through the roof. So to your point, it's like
Of course,
people
yeah.
people want pop. There's a reason
Hmm.
for it.
Hmm.
But the kind of music that you're, Matthias, that you're putting out, and the kind of music that you're making, Saba, it moves the heart. It's like there's a reason why I kept listening to it. It's like, okay, there's something here. It's going to be a little harder to get to it, but it's so much more rewarding
Hmm.
once it comes in. And this is the conversation I had with Matthias when we first met. It was like, this is the stuff that's needed. Because if it's just pop songs, if it's just like you out there, like, I am so beautiful, here I am dancing, nobody cares. But if you're actually like, we may never see each other again. Come on. That's the stuff that really gets, you remember that. It's like it's you're going to be a director. Like, you see a gigantic epic like Avengers or something, and in a day you forgot what happened in that movie. But you see something small, and suddenly you remember that for the rest of your life. There's like this music and this opportunity for a cultural exchange is the thing that I feel will make my children's world a better place. And kind of like, and Matthias and I were talking about this before. It's like, this is why we're here. This is
Yeah.
why we're doing this. It's like, there's other ways to make money. Trust me. I know
Yes.
Yeah.
there's easier ways to sell stuff, and especially with tunes. But this is important. And right now, for both you as a label and you as an artist, there's never been a better time for this, because I'm discovering just with putting Sama out, it's just like, wow, I had no idea that TikTok was going to be such a thing. Like 3 months ago. Now it's like, okay. Do you guys get TikTok? Can you get TikTok in Iran, or is it blocked?
Well, I
Saba.
haven't opened that can of worms yet. So
Okay.
yeah.
I'm
Okay.
thinking about it actually. So it won't. I think it won't take too long.
It won't, but it becomes really, really interesting, and especially for artists and labels such as yourself. It's
Yes.
kind of like you really need to be on this thing. It helps to have, you know, teenagers because they are your guides to the future. But it really does become really intriguing because there's an insane amount of people out there that are looking for stuff like this. And this is the thing that I try to stress with everybody is like, you got to do it. You can't be that, I don't want to do that. Can I get somebody else to do that for me? I'm just going to sit in my room and, play my fiddle. It's like, no, you really need to go and do this. You
Yes.
really need to learn how to do this because it's important for you to share this music. If you were making crap, then I'd be like, yeah, don't worry about it. Yeah, I'm sorry your girlfriend left you and you feel like you have to spend the next year of your life making songs about her. Nobody wants to hear it. But for you guys to do this, this is important and it's really powerful work. And so continue to make it happen. Matthias, what's the plan? You're releasing vinyl. You're like, what are you going to continue to do to get this out?
I mean, the first next important step will be the release of Saba's new album, early July. So an entire album. So we were just talking about the This Is Tehran compilation, but this young guy recorded an entire album, which will be out by 9th of July. So that's the
Okay.
next.
That's good.
That's the next big step. That's the next.
So it will be out on July 9th.
8th. I'm sorry.
July,
Yeah.
On
July 8th. I'll be available on all the platforms. So July 8th. Okay, perfect. That's awesome. Okay, so we'll get that. We'll put links to that great. We're going to support your record, obviously. We're going to try to
Well,
figure
thank
out a
you.
way to get you to come and play here. Um,
Hopefully.
I know it's going to be hard, but what in life isn't worth it? It's not hard. And then most importantly, more artists from Iran through our channels here and our sister stations and our other ways to share this and to get this out because it can make a difference.
I just wanted to mention something about the Tehran compilation that was just published.
Please.
Um, it's, I would say, it's a pretty interesting selection that you don't necessarily. I would say you cannot find that kind of combination anywhere because you have from really top-notch female pop singers to really top-notch folk instrumentalists to also really top-notch electronic musicians, and basically you have everything that you would need for a musical palette. So, and it's interestingly put together because since Matthias has been doing this for quite a long time, I would say sometimes and most of the times he would understand the audience uh, even more than the artists. You know how to put the tracks together. What would be interesting for people to listen to right now, or etc. So I would also suggest for anybody that is listening or watching this to also check out the Tehran compilation. This is Tehran question mark, which you could find also how many 10 artists, Matthias?
10,
Is
yes, 10 different
10
artists.
artists,
Yes.
10 different artists, and it's also pretty quite amazing.
Oh, it's amazing.
And if I might just add, because it connects well to what you said, Darek, before. So there's a certain deepness I find in those tracks when picking them. So there's a certain emotionality in those tracks. This for me is something is also an influence of the exterior of Tehran, of the country, of living there. Not all 10 tracks are basically from Iran actually at the moment, but in my understanding, you hear a difference in composition if you compose and live in Tehran than if you compose and live in Berlin, even as an Iranian expert. And so I chose all these things, which kind of a bit of a gut feeling, like in a certain range. I wouldn't put pure pop on there, but there's a certain pop tonality in lots of those tracks, and they fit well together from the emotionality. So that was my take on this compilation, to put something which emotionally fits from start to end.
And it works. But Matthias, why Iran?
This is still something I cannot fully explain. I just fell in love with the country, the people, and the culture on my first visit. It's as easy or as complex as this. So there's maybe more experiences on the way. People I met, good friends in Tehran, like Saba, and like other people. So but to put it in 3 words, I'm just not able to.
No, I'm not. I would never. As you can see, I'm a bit of a chatty Cathy here. It takes more than 3 words.
Good.
But I'm always intrigued. It's just like, why? I have a friend who's now in Kinshasa, and it's just like, why Kinshasa? I was like, well, and for him, it's not a grittiness exactly. That's the wrong word for it. But it's like people who are living in complicated places create complicated lives, and that complication is very attractive to him. Where it's like, how do you create music? How do you create art in these places? I love Iranian culture, Iranian music. One of my first interns was second generation Iranian, and I was like, this is really deep, and we're just not getting anything here. When I moved to the States in the 70s, the revolution just happened. You had all of the stuff that was going during the Carter administration, and it was insane amount of propaganda that was being thrown out. And now, it takes time, and now we can do whatever we can to push against that, so that stupid things have a harder time breaking through and making that happen. Saba, your record's coming out. on
Yeah.
July 8th, you would be a touring musician. But what is
Hopefully
that?
after pandemic, yeah.
Okay, talk about that for me for a second. I know I've spoken to a few artists living as well. I've spoken to Salome, who's been working with artists. The pandemic was really hard and continues to be hard in Iran. What's the situation now? Are vaccines getting there? A little bit, not much.
People
What's
are
the
getting vaccinated. I mean, how do you say? According to their age, and I mean, for me, as a 38-year-old, I think we're gonna be vaccinated maybe in 6 months or
Okay.
something. But yeah, I mean, both my parents are vaccinated now, so I'm somehow relieved. But I
You-
mean, the whole thing, the whole coronavirus pandemic, staying home for 2 years was kind of crazy and fruitful at the same time for me personally because I got a lot of things done. First of all, I got married, which I never thought I would, and
Congratulations. How do you say
well, thank you.
congratulations? What's the thing? Like in Hebrew, it's Mazel Tov. When and here and in Polish, it would be Nazdrovia. What would be
Shtab
in?
Mubarak, Mubarak. It's somehow Arabic actually.
Okay.
Um, and I mean, we had to move together, so moving in the pandemic situation was also kind of crazy. And for the past 2 years, I mean, I've been putting this album together, so it was quite fun, quite depressing, quite everything. I experienced all kinds of emotions in these 2 years, um, and this came out of it basically. And the title actually comes uh, from what we went through because we've lost so many people just uh, f- uh, with them getting the virus,
Yeah.
um, and it's crazy at the same time. And so many people still don't believe in it. So many people believe in it. Some do the vaccine, some do not do the vaccine. It's a crazy show at the same time still.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I was touring. I was touring before the pandemic, but I've been home for 2 years, mostly teaching, mostly composing, and learning. Reading, which has been, as I said, fruitful. And I really hope I get back on the road pretty soon because I really miss it.
Um, when you're touring, you would be touring within Iran and then the Middle East. I mean, what's that? Because it's so freaking complicated. It's just, well, how does that work? Because there's issues obviously with Middle East politically, obviously with Israel, but then you've got places like Germany and France and Holland and Sweden, Norway, and then theoretically we find a way to have you come and play in the States. How does that work? Is it's I mean,
Hmm.
look, I mean, for Matthias and like your touring manager was just like that's a reality TV show right now. Saba's touring manager post
I mean,
pandemic. It's like
uh, you just got to apply for visas. I mean, obviously, Iranians cannot travel to Israel, but
obviously,
other places they can. I mean, I've performed in the States after my studies, and I mean, mostly I tour Iran, different cities, main cities in Iran, and then it's mostly Europe because the States, first of all, it's too long of a flight, too long of a travel, and the expenses could go higher. I still haven't found a way to actually put a tour together in the States yet, but hopefully in the upcoming year, I would make that happen. I mean, with a good manager or someone of that sort. But yeah, I mean, I've basically traveled all over Europe touring, so I would say Iran, not Middle East too much actually. I haven't played in any countries in the Middle East except Iran. So, which is, I'm not proud of it, but at the same time, uh, let's say I've been invited from Helsinki, but I haven't invited from Dubai Festival. So,
yeah.
uh,
I'm
you
and
know,
that drives me wackadoo crazy
yeah,
because it would be so
yeah,
powerful and so important. I mean, I've spent some time in Amman, and there's
mm,
festivals there, and it would just be so wonderful. I mean, two things. One, You've been in the States, so this is my dream, is that Saba, you and 4 other musicians
Yeah.
in an old van driving across the country, from New
That would be
York
nice.
to LA and every place in between, and playing in parts, and just like that would be amazing. Where my family and I, after school, we're going cross country,
Oh, beautiful.
like for like a long trip, because this is one of the few countries you can do that. And I
Exactly.
think something like that, because we were just talking about TikTok and everything, it's like something like that, something documented where you're playing in Raleigh, you're in Austin, you're not just doing like most of the time in the States, it's like New York, Chicago, LA, that's it. That's like, what?
Mm.
That's not even the country. But you can drive and show up and play, eat the food, have the good times and the bad times. That would be amazing.
Mm.
Amazing like this, where it's not just, you doing Nirvana covers, which is bound to happen, but actually making something like that work. And also play within uh, within Dubai, within Abu Dhabi, within Amman, with Cairo, in Morocco,
Yeah.
and like all of these places. Because if we're going to do this is what we're doing right now, then it's got to be everywhere. We can't just be all like, okay, that's it. We're just going to stop here right now.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
and I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think, having my kids and seeing that the next generation is going to be crazy different than my generation and before that, they're ready for something like this. This isn't like, the old white man going like, or like, the back room, how are we going to sell more arms kind of crap. But they're
Mm.
ready. They don't have the baggage. Not all of them, but they have less of the baggage that we came up with, and
Well,
others.
to be honest with you, they cannot afford to have any more baggage because, I mean, we've experienced all that baggage, and what good did it to us? I mean, once we meet person to person, face to face, all that baggage is gone because
Yeah,
they make that baggage, they
yeah.
hand it to us, and we don't decide. We don't get to choose the baggage or
No,
to
no, it's
have it or
true.
not to have it. So yeah.
I um I want to close with this, and I want you guys to just like discuss this with me for a second. Then we're going to finish with the final piece. And thank you for that. This music, what you're playing right now, what I heard on the compilation, This Is Tehran,
Mm.
um, opened up my heart. And that's one thing when one person is listening or a couple of people, but when that music is being played in a live audience, and this is the thing that we miss more than anything, when that music is being played, everybody in a room falls in love with everybody else in a room. And that happens, it's palatable. You can spot it instantly. And if you're a jaded person in the music industry, it might not be as strong. But if you're a young person and hearing this for the first time, you have a completely different relationship with Iran. You have a completely different relationship with its history. You're intoxicated by the language, the culture. It's a love affair. And it's a love affair like first love. You never, ever forget it. And I want that to, I'm getting verklempt here. I want that to happen um, in my adopted home in this country. I want that to happen in little towns. One of the reasons why I'm taking this journey with my daughters and my wife is that my daughters haven't done this yet, and they have this idea that everybody else that's in this country is just a crazy Nazi Republican. I'm like, they're not. You gotta see the other towns. There's people that are just like you. The political system is screwy, but with art, and if you can actually present this, and it would be the most beautiful story and would really make a big difference. You just got married, it's going to be complicated, but if we can make something like that happen, that would be magical.
But as you said, the beauty of music is that even the far right conservative and let's say the most left, the leftist, the leftist left
Yeah,
could
they meet they
actually
meet somewhere up there.
their hearts could melt over, I don't know, one song.
Yeah,
It's
no,
it's
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 true.
amazing.
Yeah.
People just forget about whatever differences that they had, and just give it up to a bunch of frequencies.
It's so true, and we're hoping. Saba, Matthias, thank you for being here.
Well, thanks for
This
inviting me.
This is just the
Thank you,
beginning.
Darek.
This works. This actually works. So let's do this again, and let's see if we can actually get you to perform
Okay.
live in this kind of setting with the new record coming up and everything else like that. We can at least get that started
Sure.
for the tour. This just came out of my head right now. So mind you, like this wasn't part of a plan, but now we're like, okay, we get a sponsor. Who's the bus? It's going to be electric. Okay, so how do we get this happen?
We'll do that.
Okay, be well. Be safe. We'll follow up again. Congratulations on your record, Matthias.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations on doing good work, and
Thank you, Darek, for having us here.
we'll put links and everything, and continue doing the support. And the record's beautiful, and I'm looking forward to hearing your solo record, and I'm looking forward to joining you on tour when you're actually driving across the United States of America in your electric car with 6 cases of various IPAs being sent to you. Okay, be well. Peace, love.
Take care. Thanks, man. Ciao.